I stepped out of the cab and onto the cracked sidewalk, the weight of 25 years pressing down on me. My military discharge papers were still in my bag, barely folded, a reminder of everything I was leaving behind. Lieutenant Colonel Nathan Lockach, retired. It didn't feel like a victory. It felt more like an ending. The house stood in front of me, the same as I remembered, except now it felt like a stranger's place. My father, Richard, had disappeared years ago. Everyone said he was dead, but no one ever found him. He left the house to me, though I hadn't been back since boot camp. A lot had changed, and as I stood there, I couldn't shake the feeling that everything about this place had already been claimed by someone else. The intercom crackled to life. Olivia, my younger sister, her voice as sharp as a razor. "Who the hell do you think you are, Nathan?" she demanded, her words slicing through the silence. "You left us. You left this family. You're not even part of this anymore." I froze. "Olivia, it's me. I'm home," I said, trying to sound calm, trying to make sense of it all. I was still holding on to hope, hoping that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't what I thought it was. "You don't get to come back here," she snapped, cutting me off. "You signed the house over months ago. Derek and I own it now." Before I could reply, the hum of a police siren pierced the air, and a cruiser pulled up to the curb. A cop stepped out, his boots clicking on the pavement, looking at me like I was the one who didn't belong. "I'm afraid she's right, sir," the officer said, flipping open a file. "This property's been transferred out of your name. The new deed's in order." I stood there, feeling cold, not just from the chill in the air, but from the realization that this was no longer my home, no longer my legacy. I could barely hear the officer's words as he spoke about the legalities, the transfer of ownership. My stomach twisted as I realized this wasn't just about the house. It was about everything I had lost, my family, my place in their lives, and now, even my past. And as I stood there, alone on the sidewalk, the weight of betrayal sank in. The house wasn't mine anymore. Neither was anything else. I had been erased. I couldn't sleep. Not really. I parked my car down the block, close enough to the house so I could still see it, but far enough that no one would notice me lingering. The wind was sharp, cutting through my jacket, but it wasn't the cold that kept me awake. It was the weight of everything crashing down. 25 years, and this was the welcome home I got. My father was gone, my sister had erased me from her life, and now even the house, the one thing I thought I still had left, had been stolen right out from under me. I didn't know what I expected to happen. I didn't know how to fix it. So I just sat there, staring at the dashboard until my eyelids finally got heavy and I drifted in and out of half sleep. By the time the sun came up, I could feel the numbness crawling in deeper. I was cold, I was pissed, and I had no idea where to go next. I drove straight to a little cafe off the main road. It smelled like stale coffee and old grease, the kind of place I used to go with Tim Jacobs when we were stationed at Fort Lewis. Tim had been a lawyer in the Army, a smart guy, the kind of guy you wanted on your side when the legal stuff got messy. So when I pulled into the parking lot, I figured he might be my best shot at figuring out what the hell had really happened with the house. He was already sitting at a table, sipping his coffee, his military haircut now a little grayer than I remembered. When he saw me, he gave me that crooked smile of his, the one that always made you feel like maybe everything wasn't as screwed up as it seemed. "Long time, Nathan," he said, motioning for me to sit down. I didn't waste time. I slid into the booth across from him, dropping my bag with the discharge papers on the table. "I need your help." Tim raised an eyebrow but didn't ask questions. Instead, he pulled out his laptop and started tapping away. "I'm looking for anything that can tell me what happened to my father's house," I said, my voice rougher than I intended. "It's been transferred, sold. Hell, I don't even know anymore." Tim didn't flinch. He just nodded, scrolling through public records. A few minutes later, he turned the screen toward me, tapping the mouse. "There," he said, pointing to the screen. "Looks like the house at 1432 Ridgewood Drive was transferred to a company called Windmill Properties, LLC, 3 months ago." My stomach dropped. I leaned in closer, shaking my head. "That's impossible. I never sold it." Tim pulled up more documents. "Well, the deed's been signed by you, Nathan. Your name's right there on the seller line." I blinked, staring at the name, my name, on the screen. I knew I hadn't signed anything. I didn't even know what Windmill Properties was. My heart started racing, a wave of disbelief crashing through me. "This is a mistake. I never sold it." Tim's expression darkened as he scrolled. "This might be worse than you think. The notary on this deal? Suspended for fraud. And guess what? Your signature's a match." I could barely breathe. I looked at Tim, my pulse thundering in my ears. "No, no way. Someone forged my signature?" He nodded grimly. "It's looking that way. Someone's been using your name, Nathan, and it's a hell of a lot deeper than some family squabble over a house." My hands clenched into fists. It wasn't just the house I'd lost. It was the whole damn thing. My sister, my father, the years I'd spent away, thinking this place would always be waiting for me. I wanted to scream, but instead, I just took a long, shaky breath. "This isn't over," I muttered. "Whoever's behind this, I'm going after them." Tim stared at me for a long second, then nodded. "We'll figure it out. But you need concrete proof. You don't just go after something like this without knowing who's pulling the strings." I sat back in my seat, staring at the screen, my mind spinning. It was bad enough to be written out of the will, but this was a deliberate, calculated move to strip me of everything I thought I was entitled to. And I wasn't about to let them get away with it. But now, I needed to know exactly who was behind this. I needed to find out how deep this thing went, and why it had to be me they targeted. Tim was already searching through more records, but all I could think about was one thing. Someone had taken my legacy, and I was going to make them regret it. By the time we left the cafe, the reality of what I was up against was sinking in. The more Tim dug into the records, the clearer it became. Someone had planned this, and they'd been smart about it. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being pushed into a corner, like I was watching my life slip through my fingers. Tim and I spent the next few hours pulling at threads. He tracked down the name of a company involved with windmill properties, a freight business owned by none other than Derek, my brother-in-law. Derek. The guy who'd always been a little too polished, a little too perfect. I'd never trusted him. But this was something else. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the laptop screen. "Derek's behind this?" My voice was tight. "He's part of the scam?" Tim nodded, looking like he'd just uncovered something bigger than he'd expected. "Looks that way. His company's got ties to windmill properties. International shipping, offshore accounts. Doesn't add up." The blood in my veins felt like ice. My sister, Olivia, had been involved in this. But Derek, he had to be the mastermind. He had the connections, the motive. And now I was seeing it. All these years I'd thought my family was just a little dysfunctional. Turns out they'd been hiding something much darker. I stood up, pacing the small room. "I need to talk to Jack," I said, my voice sharp. "He's still got eyes on the street. He might know something." Jack was an old Army contact of mine, a guy who'd helped me out more than once when I was stationed overseas. He knew the area well, and he knew how to sniff out a rat. If anyone had seen anything suspicious around the house, it'd be him. Tim nodded, already pulling out his phone to make a few calls. I stepped outside to make the drive to Jack's. The air felt heavy, like it was pressing down on me. I needed answers, fast. When I arrived at Jack's place, I didn't waste time. I could tell by the look on his face that he knew I wasn't there for small talk. "What's going on, Jack?" I asked, cutting right to the point. "You know something." He hesitated before speaking, rubbing his chin like he was deciding how much to say. Finally, he sighed. "I've seen Derek around the house. A couple of times, actually, late at night." My gut twisted. "With who?" "Some guys," Jack said, lowering his voice. "Shady guys. Don't know exactly what they were up to, but I've seen them unloading stuff into the basement. Not your typical moving job." I clenched my jaw, the pieces clicking together. "What kind of stuff?" "I don't know," Jack said, eyes darting around. "But it wasn't furniture, I'll tell you that much. More like crates, big ones. And they didn't look like they belonged in a house." A sick feeling settled in my stomach. This wasn't just a financial scam. It was bigger than that. Derek was using the house for something illegal. I didn't know what yet, but I could feel it in my bones. The weight of it was crushing, suffocating. "I need more," I said, pacing again, my mind racing. "I need to know what they're hiding." Jack shifted uncomfortably. "Nathan, you might want to be careful. If they're moving that kind of stuff, it could be more than just smuggling. There's a lot of money in play here." I stopped, looking at him. "You think it's connected to something worse?" Jack didn't answer right away, but his silence was enough. I could feel the walls closing in around me, and for the first time, I wasn't just pissed off. I was scared. This was about to get ugly. As I left Jack's, my mind was spinning. Derek and Olivia were in deep, And it wasn't just about some house. They were tied to something that reached far beyond family betrayal. The question now wasn't just how deep they were in. It was how far they'd go to keep whatever was happening under wraps. I drove back to the house that night, keeping a safe distance. The streetlights cast long shadows across the cracked pavement, but my eyes were fixed on the property. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was standing on the edge of something huge. Derek's operation, whatever it was, had to be bigger than just a simple forgery. I needed proof, and I wasn't going to leave until I had it. From across the street, I saw them, Derek and a few men I didn't recognize. They were unloading heavy equipment, pallets, crates, something industrial looking. Definitely not something you'd bring into a family home. They were too careful, moving quickly, like they knew someone might be watching. And the way they kept looking over their shoulders, something about it made my skin crawl. I waited, watching from the shadows, waiting for the right moment. The sun had just dipped behind the horizon, and the street was empty. My heart was thumping in my chest, the adrenaline kicking in. This was it. This was the chance I needed to get inside and see what they were really doing. I waited for Derek and his crew to finish up, then I moved toward the back of the house. My footsteps were silent against the cold ground, my breath shallow in the night air. There, near the old stone wall, I found it. A hidden door in the back, dark, rusted, and barely noticeable. I couldn't believe it. The basement. Of course. Why hadn't I thought of that before? The house was too old for a legit renovation. They had to be hiding something down there. I took a deep breath, checked to make sure no one was watching, and crept inside. The stairs creaked beneath my weight as I descended. The air smelled strange, chemical, sharp, and bitter, like something I couldn't quite place. The sound of machinery hummed through the walls, deep and grinding. I pulled out my phone, hit record, and slowly panned the camera across the space. What I saw made my stomach tighten. The basement wasn't just some old storage area. There were large crates stacked in every corner, crates too big to be just boxes of junk. The kind of crates you'd see in a warehouse. Not residential. There were pipes running along the ceiling, industrial lights flickering above. The machinery was loud now, and I could feel the vibrations in my chest as I moved closer. It wasn't just a house. It was a front. I didn't know for what, but I knew it was bigger than Derek and Olivia trying to screw me out of the property. This was illegal. The equipment, the smell of chemicals, the secrecy, it all pointed in one direction. Smuggling, manufacturing, maybe even something worse. I focused the camera on the crates, documenting everything. I needed the proof. The light from my phone flickered in the darkness as I moved deeper into the room, trying to stay hidden. I didn't know how long I'd have before Derek or his people showed up again, but I had to get everything I could. Then I heard it. A voice, low, gravelly, but unmistakable. "Everything's ready, Derek. We're good to go." I froze, the phone still recording in my hand. The voice was familiar. Too familiar. My father's voice. I couldn't breathe. My father, the man who had built this family up, the man I'd looked up to, had been involved in this. In whatever the hell was going on down here, it hit me like a punch to the gut. All those years, all that time I spent believing he was the pillar of the community. And now I was hearing his voice, casual as ever, talking to Derek like they were partners in something dangerous. My heart hammered in my chest as I crouched low, trying not to make a sound. I watched, barely breathing, as Derek responded. "We just need a few more shipments, but we're almost there. The house is good. No one's going to notice." I wanted to run, to storm in there and confront them both. But I knew better. I needed to get out. I needed to stay alive long enough to expose them for what they were. I backed away slowly, my phone still recording, the images of my father's voice echoing in my mind. I thought I'd hit rock bottom when I found out they'd forged my signature, but this was betrayal on a whole new level. As I crept back up the stairs and out the hidden door, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just about the house anymore. This was about everything I thought I knew about my family. And the more I dug, the darker it got. I sat at the table with Tim, the weight of everything pressing down on me. It was a start, but I knew better than to think this would be easy. The fight had just begun. Tim pulled up a new set of documents on his laptop, his eyes scanning the screen. "Look at this," he muttered, tapping on the keys. I leaned in, trying to keep my focus. I had a mountain of anger inside me, but I needed to keep it together. I felt the ground shift under my feet. At first, this had been about taking back what was mine, the house, my legacy. But now, it was about something much bigger. I'd stepped into a battle that was going to take everything I had, and even then, it might not be enough. The family I thought I knew, they were part of something I could never have imagined, and now I was stuck in the middle of it. "Olivia knows, doesn't she?" I asked, my voice low. Tim didn't answer right away, but the look he gave me said everything. "She's been in on it from the start. She's not some innocent bystander. She might have thought she could sit back and keep her hands clean, but she's as deep in this as Derek is." My fists clenched. The rage was there again, bubbling up, hot and relentless. But it wasn't just about being betrayed anymore. It was about the fact that my sister, the one person I thought I could trust, had helped tear everything I believed in apart. She'd sided with Derek, with this criminal mess. And for what? Money, power, a life built on lies? I stood up abruptly, pacing the room. "This isn't just a family betrayal, Tim. This is something I can't even wrap my head around. My father, Olivia, Derek, they're all involved, and I'm the one who's left holding the bag." Tim sat back in his chair, watching me with a calmness I couldn't feel. "You've got the evidence now. The injunction will buy you time, but this won't be easy. You're going up against more than just your family. You're dealing with people who have power and connections. They'll fight back hard." I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. "I know, but I'm not backing down. They think they can erase me, take everything I've worked for, but I'm not going to let them get away with it. Not now, not ever." Tim nodded, a hint of respect in his eyes. "That's the fight you're in now, Nathan, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But if you're ready for it, I'm in. I'll help you however I can." I looked at him, the weight of everything pressing down harder now. "I'm ready. I've lost too much to turn back. But I need you to help me finish this, whatever it takes." Tim met my gaze, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like I had someone in my corner. A small bit of strength in the middle of a war that had only just begun. The paperwork was filed. The injunction was in place. But I knew the battle wasn't over, not by a long shot. And the road ahead was going to be longer, harder, and dirtier than I ever imagined. But I wasn't stopping. Not until I took back everything they'd stolen from me. I didn't knock. I just walked up to the front door with Tim right behind me, the court injunction in my hand, feeling the weight of it like a damn anchor. I could hear the sound of footsteps from inside, and my heart started to beat faster. This was it, the moment I'd been waiting for. Olivia answered the door, her face lighting up with that fake smile she always wore when she was hiding something. But the second she saw the legal documents in my hand, that smile crumbled. Her eyes flicked to Tim, then back to me, a flicker of panic flashing across her face. "What the hell is this?" she demanded, stepping back, trying to keep her voice steady. "This is what's going to stop you and Derek from running this scam any further." I didn't wait for her to say another word. I shoved the injunction into her hands. "You and your husband have been caught. Fraud, money laundering, God knows what else." Derek stepped into the hallway, blocking the path to the rest of the house. He crossed his arms, trying to look tough, but there was something in his eyes, a flicker of fear behind the bravado. "This is ridiculous, Nathan," he sneered. "You think this is going to hold up in court? You're out of your league." I held my ground. "I'm not out of my league, Derek. You are." I glanced at Olivia, who was already glancing down at the paperwork, her fingers shaking as she read through it. "You both are. This house? It was stolen from me. The deed was forged. The signatures, including mine, were falsified. And don't even get me started on what you're doing in the basement." Derek stepped forward, trying to loom over me, but I didn't flinch. "You can't prove any of that." "Actually," I said, voice cutting through the air, "I can. The notary who signed off on the deed, suspended for fraud. Your money trails go straight to offshore accounts tied to criminal organizations. And I've got enough proof to bury you both." His eyes went dark, and I could see the anger bubbling up, but he stayed quiet. Olivia's face had gone pale. She looked between Derek and me, like she was trying to process what I was saying. The reality was hitting her, piece by piece, and I could almost see her cracking under the weight of it. "You've been a part of this the whole time, Olivia," I continued, my voice quieter now, but still firm. "You knew what Derek was doing. You knew about the forgery, and you turned your back on me. I'm your brother, and you stabbed me in the back." She opened her mouth like she was going to say something, but the words never came. She just stood there, stunned into silence. Her world was falling apart in front of her, and she didn't know how to fix it. Derek glared at me, his fists clenching at his sides. You think you're just gonna walk in here and destroy everything I've built? You think I'm gonna let you take everything from me? You've already taken everything from me, I shot back. I've got the proof, Derek. You've lost. And now you're going to pay for it. He opened his mouth to argue, but then his shoulders slumped, like he realized he was out of moves. He looked at Olivia, who was still staring at the papers, her expression blank. I could hear Tim shift behind me, his presence like a silent reminder that this wasn't just about family anymore. This was bigger. This was about the law, and I was done letting them get away with it. Olivia finally spoke, her voice small. What now? You've been exposed, I said, my voice steady, not a trace of emotion left in it. The court proceedings will finish what I've started. Everything you've built, it's coming down, and when it does, you'll have to face what you've done. There was nothing left to say. Derek and Olivia had been caught. The truth was out, and they were standing there, completely exposed. I walked past them, my head held high. I'd won. Not just the house, but something bigger, my dignity, my family's history, my right to what was mine.